I didn't think John Wick was that interesting at first, because I thought he was just another generic action hero that I've seen 100 different times already. He's well dressed and cool like James Bond, he's tactical and dangerous like Jason Bourne, but he's almost identical to a character named Gogo 13. But because John Wick was such a cliche character, I started to pay attention to his environment and the characters that he interacts with, and somehow I knew, on a subconscious level, that John Wick was more interesting than I had realized. The first movie was basically just an action revenge movie, but the second and third movies exposed this franchise for what it really is. These movies are basically cinematic video games, with all the secret weapons rooms, access cards, and boss battles. But what if I told you that the John Wick movies are actually sequels to The Matrix? Now, I know there's at least a few of you that think you already know what I'm gonna say. You think I'm gonna say it's the sequel to The Matrix because it's Keanu Reeves with a monotone personality and a legendary reputation, wearing all black, killing a bunch of henchmen as he fights a personal war against the entire system itself. And he does it all in the name of love. Well, sorry to disappoint you guys, but that's not what I'm gonna say. In fact, we can just throw all that stuff in the trash because that's all just surface level stuff anyway. One of the first things I noticed was the amount of times where it's shown the city. We can say that most of these are just transitions or establishing shots, but there's an excessive amount of scenes with the cityscape in the Matrix movies too. But with the Matrix, they don't try to hide the fact that the city is basically a motherboard. The mega city is where all the programs live, and it's where most of the events in the Matrix movies take place. And once I understood that, I started to notice other computer-related visuals. Kinda looks like Tron, huh? If so many of the locations look like the inside of a computer, then maybe the movie's taking place inside of one. The architect explains that this is the sixth version of the Matrix, and that every version always has a Zion and a Neo. But each time he creates a new Matrix, he changes it to try and stop these things from happening. So after Neo was plugged back in, the Matrix was upgraded and changed to make it run more efficiently. But instead of trying to stop the anomaly this time, the architect just turned him into an upgraded version of Agent Smith. Agent Smith is the Matrix's antivirus program. It's a program that all other programs are afraid of. But why would Neo agree to be the new Agent Smith? The architect said that giving people a choice to accept the Matrix was the reason it was able to reach a balance. So all he would have to do is create a Cornerstone. In the first season of Westworld, Bernard finds out that the death of his son wasn't real, and that it was all just an idea put in his head to keep him stuck in a daily routine. This is his Cornerstone. It's the foundation for his desires and his personality, but it's a foundation that's based on a lie. John Wick's Cornerstone is his wife's death. We never learn how she died or any details about her because John Wick's wife isn't real. She's all just part of his Cornerstone. He kills a warehouse full of people just to get a picture of her, he agrees to come out of retirement, and the only reason he wants to stay alive is so he can remember her.
Why do you wish to live?
My wife. To remember her.
Money never seems to be a big deal with anyone in these movies. We hear about money and we see it a few times too, but the only currency we see anyone use is these gold coins. Coins that look very similar to Bitcoin. Each coin gives John Wick access to private places, and he can use them to buy weapons, costumes, or secret maps, and he can even exchange it for one personal favor. It makes sense why the criminals would use this as their own secret type of money, but why does every person that's given one of these coins know exactly what to do with it? Why does a random cab driver or a seamstress automatically know what this is? It's because none of these people are real. At the beginning of this video, I compared these movies to a cinematic video game, because every interaction looks like a scene from GTA or Watch Dogs, and that idea made me focus my attention on the way the normal people behave in these movies. If you've ever played an open world game, you know that the NPCs are limited in what they can do. They usually perform some meaningless task over and over, and they never interfere with the gameplay unless you interact with them first. We see lots of crowded places in these movies, and everyone that's not part of the criminal underworld seems like they're just background characters in a Matrix training program. None of them ever interact with the main characters, and there's a couple of scenes where people are in a shootout or a knife fight and no one seems to even notice. No one notices these people get killed in the middle of a busy train station. And none of these people react to a knife fight that's 10 feet away from them. Or what about the last scene in John Wick 2? The question I kept asking myself was, why does this city have so many high-level assassins? I mean, it seems like they're everywhere we go. They're just playing violin in the park, or hanging out at the library, or just drinking a cup of coffee and reading a newspaper. Remember how the agents can respawn into any person that was plugged into the Matrix? They could just take over any person's body? Well, just watch this and tell me it doesn't look like that's what's happening. John Wick walks by, and a random person suddenly becomes a top-level assassin. It's pretty obvious that the architect and the elder are the same person. But the detail that made this undeniable was the way John Wick was told to find the elder. He was told to follow the brightest star.
You wish to speak with him? You follow the brightest star.
And what happened when Neo found the door to meet the architect?
You follow the brightest star.
I am the Bowery!
The Bowery King is one of the strangest characters in the entire series. He isn't an official member of the High Table, but he is one of the most important criminals in the underworld. He controls a network of underground spies, all pretending to be homeless men. And he runs his operation outside of the Matrix City so he can stay off the grid.
No IP addresses, no digital footprint. Can't track it, can't hack it, can't trace it.
Remember when Cypher said he wanted to return to the Matrix? He said he wanted to be somebody important. Well, Morpheus was already a leader in the underground city of Zion, so this seems like an obvious place for him. For obvious reasons, I thought this was just Morpheus plugged back into the Matrix, but when I looked at the character a little closer, I noticed that he has the same specialty as the Merovingian. And just like the Merovingian, he surrounds himself with exiles and he openly goes against the High Table. When you think about the Matrix, you probably think about prophecies and a great war between humans and machines, but if you really pay attention to the story, you'll see that it's a story about the power struggle between the programs. Agent Smith wants to destroy the Matrix wants the anomaly to plug back in so we can do a reboot and upgrade, the Merovingian wants to kill the Oracle wants to free more humans, and many other smaller programs have their own hidden agendas. And each program wants to use Neo to try to accomplish their own personal goals. And the John Wick movies are basically the same. It's a story about the power struggle between the crime bosses and the gangs, and John Wick is just kinda caught in the middle of it.